All right, we're continuing now to the end. Actually, we're finishing this week's Torah reading about Joseph and his brothers. Joseph, as you know, has miraculously rocketed to stardom, besides getting his name in the Torah, because that's pretty good, but also he's the ruler of all Egypt. And not only that, he saves the whole world. And now we're going to see how he exactly conducts himself. So Pharaoh says to Joseph, okay, you know what? You're going to be the leader. You call all the shots. Anything that you want, you can do. Because if it wasn't for you, we'd all be dead. So obviously, you're intending for our good. So Joseph and now says, okay, first of all, I want to bring my father and my brothers. They're all going to come down. Yoma Yosef, and let's go. This is the 47th chapter of the book of Genesis. Vayavo Yosef, Yosef came v'yaged leParah, and he told the Pharaoh, my father, OrHaChaim, and my brothers, but Sonam, Bukaram, and their sheep and their cattle, V'kol asher lahem, and everything they have, Bo are coming, Meretz Canaan, from Eretz Canaan, V'hinam, and behold, here they are in the land of Goshen. What does it mean? It says the OrHaChaim. What I told him to do, it was my advice. I told him to do it. And here they are. Right? And remember what you said, Pharaoh. You said you're going to give them the best of the land of Israel, of the best of the land of Egypt. Where is that? The land of Goshen. We're going to see, he's going to call it Ramses in a few minutes. It's a place of sheep and shepherds, and it's the best of the land. But the brothers, when they spoke in front of Pharaoh, they didn't come with a demand, but they begged. I should give you. They begged. They said, "Please let us stay in the land of come to Egypt because there's nothing to eat. There's no grazing land." Okay. So Pharaoh says, "Okay, some of your brothers, I'm going to take umiktsas achiv lakach chamisha anashim v'yatzigim leFarao." He took 5 of his brothers in front of Pharaoh. He said, "Here they are, Pharaoh." And Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What do you do?" And they said to Pharaoh, "We are shepherds. Also, our fathers." And now being a shepherd in Egypt was not a very popular thing because by them, their gods were shepherds. So a Jew was dealing with their gods, right? Was telling. So that wasn't exactly the best thing to say. But they could say anything they wanted to because Joseph had made such an impression on Pharaoh that he was only for the benefit of Pharaoh, and that therefore they could say what they wanted to. Here we go. Let's see. He took some of his brothers. Which brothers did he take? He said there's 2 different opinions. Rashi says that he took the weakest of them. Hapachutim shelahem legvura. Shem nirim gevura. He took the weakest of them. That they, if they appeared to be strong, then Pharaoh would make them warriors. He would put them over his army. Who did he take? He took Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yisachar, and Benjamin. Those are the weakest ones. Weakest ones. Okay, we're going to see if this is really true. Also, Shalom Kafal Moshe, these that Moses, in next week's Torah portion, Moses does not repeat their names when he blesses them. We'll see next week's Torah portion by Yechi. But the names of the strong ones, next week's Torah portion, he did double. Because it's Zos Yehuda, Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda. LaGad is Baruch Morchid Gad. LaNaftali, Omar LaNaftali. This we're going to see, like I said, in next week's Torah portion, Yaakov gathers all of the tribes, and he all of his sons, and he blesses all of them, tells them what's going to be. So some of them, he repeats their names. Dan, it says, that's a quote. Dan Omar, Dan Gur Aryeh. The Zivulun, and he says, L'chov Yomim Zivulun, and also L'Asher. All of them these were the powerful ones. The powerful ones he blessed twice. And those Joseph didn't show to Pharaoh. That's what it says in Bereshis Rabbah. But in the Gemara, in the Talmud Bavli, we find exactly the opposite. It says that those that Moshe doubled their names, they're the weak ones. They had to have a double blessing. And the ones that he brought in front of Pharaoh, they were the strong ones. He brought them. What about Yehuda? That everybody knows Yehuda was the strong one. He was the one this whole Torah portion is talking about that. Next week, and you'll see that when Yaakov gives blessings to all of his children, he doesn't double the name. He doesn't double the name of the strong ones. And it was exactly the opposite of what we said. First of all, we said that next week he doubled the names of the strong ones. Now we're saying, no, he doubled the names of the weak ones next week. And the ones that Yaakov brought, these were the strong ones, not the weak ones. Okay, so the question is, these were the ones that Yaakov brought in front of him, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Benjamin. Were these the weakest or the strongest? According to the first opinion of the Midrash, these were the weakest. That's why these were the weakest. These were all the weakest ones, right? And the strong ones, those were the ones whose names were doubled over. Those are not these. According to the other opinion, no. These were not the weak ones. These were the strong ones. And next week, the ones whose names were doubled over, those were the same ones. They were the weak ones. They were the weak tribes. So are these tribes the strong ones or the weak ones? Well, they have two different opinions. Like, why does Rashi bring this up? Why does he bring this up? He says that, first of all, there's several reasons why. Which ones he brought. If you would have, he brings a very good reason. If you would bring the strong ones, his power would put them over his warriors, his people. He would put them in the army. So are these the strong ones or the weak ones? So he said these are the weak ones. But if we see that previously these weren't Shimon and Levi, it says they were the ones who destroyed a whole city. So they weren't. Okay, it has to be investigated. That's what Rashi says. Let's look into this a little bit more. And we'll see. Could be that he brought the strong ones to impress Pharaoh, and that he knew that Pharaoh would not put them over his troops. Okay, further. In any case, it says that he brought Anashim, 5 people, is the gematria Chalashim, weak ones. Anashim, this is the gematria Chalashim Shebaem Chaser Echad, the weak ones of them missing 1. Because there were 12 brothers, and he only taught 5 in front of them, and Joseph was one of them also. So there were 11 other brothers. So if he brought 5 in front of them, so there was 1 more that's missing. So how does that work out? Vayomer Paro says to the brothers, what do you do? And they said, we're all shepherds. Vayomer Paro, the Gur Beretz Banu, we came to the land of Israel. We came to the land of Egypt just to dwell here because we haven't got any food for your servants because there's such a hunger, and that's why we're all here. Says Pharaoh to Joseph, your father and your brothers have come to you. Correct? Obviously, it's correct. They came to him. The land of Egypt is before you. The best of the land, you should put your father and your brothers. Go to the land of Goshen. Yeshvu be'eretz Goshen. And if you know, there is the Yesh, and if you know that there are among your brothers powerful people, put them as officers in sometimes Sarai. You can make them like ministers of the shepherds, which I have also. Rashi, what does it mean, Anshe Chayil? Powerful people. It means people that are good workers. They know how to be shepherds. So Pharaoh says, I have a lot of sheep also. They can be my shepherds as well. They can take over my sheep as well. He said, you can choose the best of the land that you want. Says, B'meitiv oretz, what does he say? B'meitiv oretz hoshav et avicha ve'et achicha. Put your brothers in the best of the land. It says like this, if they decide, the meitiv, if they decide to live in the land of Goshen, this won't necessarily be their last. They can live there for a while. And if they want to choose something else, then they can pick the best also. In other words, what is he saying? Pick the best of the land of Goshen. He's telling them where to pick. Of course, that says the best of the land, B'meitiv or it's the best of the land, Eretz Goshen. So just say live in Eretz Goshen. What does he have to tell them? Pick the best land, and I'm telling you what the best land is. So he says, no, it means pick the best of the land. I'm advising Goshen, settle there for a while. If you find a better place, you can go over there. And there's anything that you want. Josef brought Yaakov, his father, and he put him in front of Pharaoh. And Yaakov blessed Pharaoh. What do you mean he blessed him? Blessed him means he said hello. Kedera kol anirim lifnei hamalchus. You come in front of the king and you say, long live the king, etc. Why does he say he stood him up in front of Pharaoh? Of course he stood him up. He put him in front of Pharaoh. He was standing in front of him. It makes a difference if he was standing or he was sitting. Maybe what it means is that he put in the place of Joseph, that Joseph put Yaakov in his own place, that Pharaoh put him there in front of his chair, like Pharaoh said, only the kisei agdal mimecha. In other words, Joseph said, here's my father. He's just the same thing as me. And let us know that Joseph put his father in front of Pharaoh in the place of the highest of the ministers of Pharaoh. In other words, he's like me. Don't think he's any less than I am, and don't think he's any less than any of your other ministers like me. Also, he wants to say that he put in front of Pharaoh. What does it mean? Because he was blessing him. He was giving him a blessing. Also, the reason he's here is because it's Pharaoh. Because Pharaoh was the lowest of type of humanity there could possibly be, therefore he had to go down and descend in front of Pharaoh to say, this is my father. My father is also coming down to stand in front of you. That's what OrHaChaim says. Okay, sentence number 8. V'yomer Paro Yaakov. Yaakov said, he said to Yaakov, how many days are the years of your life? How old are you? Sforno says he was amazed because usually people didn't live that long in Egypt. they could reach to the age of Yaakov, and also to have old age and zikna, etc. Like, I don't know if this is any indication of anything, but I was in Mexico. We went to Mexico. We went there for the Chabad houses anyway. So they gave us a tour over there with the Indians, with them Aztecs, who knows what they is, the Mayas, the Incas. I don't remember what the name of the tribes were anyway. I think the Incas were only in Peru. Anyway, whatever the name of the tribes were, the Aztecs over there. So first of all, anyway, the guy says that the lifespan over there was like 30 years old because they had these bone problems and things like that. So they didn't live very long. And one of the biggest pastimes was human sacrifice. That was a different thing, but that's off to the side. Nevertheless, they didn't live long. People did not live long. That's all. The people didn't live long. Even just, I remember, when I was a child, 70 years old was old. And here we're talking about, this is already 3,000 years ago, right? 3,000, 500 years ago. So people didn't live that long. So it was a very amazing thing that Pharaoh saw, that here's an old man. There's an old, Yaakov is 130 years old. So the Kli Yakar says, it was told to Pharaoh that when Yaakov came, the Nile River started coming up. Therefore, Pharaoh was very, very happy. And he thought that all the time that Yaakov would be alive, that the Nile River would keep coming up, and that would end the famine. Because in Egypt, there was no rain. It all depended on the Nile, and the Nile sort of dried up. And so he was happy when Yaakov comes, so there'll be irrigation. Kasher Ra, when he saw that Yaakov, and he saw that he was so old and so weak, so he thought, oh, but this is terrible. He's not going to live very long. Maybe tomorrow he's going to die. Therefore, he said, Pharaoh thought to himself that we haven't got really much of a reason to be happy, because as soon as Yaakov dies, the river is going to go back. This is the Kli Yakar, right? Kli Yakar is Rav Shlomo Lunchitz. He said, therefore, he asked Yaakov, how old is he? And Yaakov said, we're going to see in a second, the days that I've been in this world are very few, and they're very bad. What does it mean? He's telling him that the whole time of his life is megurai. He says it's just like dwelling, that I'm dwelling in the world, is not because of the number of days that I'm so weak, and so because of the fear. Megurai, megur means to be afraid. Remember, we learned that also in Vayeshev Yaakov Megurei Aviv, fear, because I was so afraid of everything that was around me. Ki et asher yagarti yovo li, everything that I feared, was afraid of, came to me. Right, my own brother wanted to kill me. Lavan fooled me. How much terrible tortures I have suffered in my life, in my past, all the time that I've been in the world. Namely, at that time he was 130 years old. Yaakov only lived 147 years, and last 17 years of his life, 17 years was in Egypt. That was the best years of his life, it says. We'll see next week. Vayechi. So he said, but the first 130 years up to now have been very bad, and very, very few and very bad. The life, and it didn't reach to the lives of my forefathers, my fathers, Avram, Yitzchak. In other words, what does it mean? The reason I look so old is not because I'm getting close to dying, but because of all the troubles and the worries that I lived. And don't worry, I have hope, Shagia Laperak Abba, that I'll at least reach the age of my father, which was 180 years old. Even though that they lived, they also had their own troubles. Nevertheless, they had long life. Therefore, he said, Megurayim, refer their fathers, because my fathers also had difficult lives. Abraham had his difficulty. He was throwing the 10 tests, terrible tests that he was given, right? And Yitzchak also had his own troubles in his own life. And so both of them said they also had their enemies and their problems and their troubles, but they lived a long time. Don't worry, Pharaoh. I'll live a long time also. The reason I look so old is only because of the difficulties I've had. Okay, this is what he's going to say. But Yomer Yaakov said to Pharaoh, Yemei Shnei Megurai, the days of my life, 130 years. Very few and very bad. And Yemei Shnei Chayai were the days of the years of my life, and they did not reach the days of my forefathers, my fathers, in the days of their difficulties and their fears. Megure wants to say means fear, difficulty. Okay, Yaakov blessed Pharaoh, and he left Pharaoh. He just blessed him before. Now he's going to bless him again. Sorry, like a person when he leaves a big high minister, a king, so he blesses him again. He blessed him, and he said, I would like now to leave. What did he bless? What blessing did he give him? Yaakov, he blessed him that Pharaoh, that any time that he went to the Nile River, the river would rise to him. The land of Egypt is not irrigated by rain. Ela Nilus Ola, but the Nile River rises up and it waters the whole land, irrigates the land. And there's also the tributaries that are drawn out, artificial. And so Yaakov blessed him from now on that whenever Pharaoh, when you come to the Nile River, that it'll go up to you. So this also did two things. It brought rain to the world. It brought, water to Egypt, so that the famine stopped. And number two, it also reasserted Pharaoh's ridiculous claim that he was God. Pharaoh, he used to go into he used to tell everyone that he was God. And as God, he didn't go to the bathroom. God doesn't go to the bathroom. So he would go to the Nile River, and he would say that he is unifying spiritually with the Lord of the river, or the river is talking to him, whatever it was, and he would really go to the bathroom in the river. That's what he was actually doing over there. The only one that knows about it was God. I mean, he writes about it in the Torah. And so that's what he was doing. Actually, Rashi, in Midrash, it talks about it. In any case, this fortified Yah, so Pharaoh was double, triple happy. Josef and his brothers and his father and his brothers, they dwelled in the land of Egypt, the best part of the land, which was called the land of Ramses. And what happened to what he said before, that he wanted to be in the land of Goshen? So Rashi says, Me'eretz Goshen, that Ramses is like the best part of the land of Goshen. That's where they lived. Vayechalkal Yosef, and Yosef provided for his brothers, his father and his brothers, and the whole household of his fathers. He gave them bread according to the necessity, whatever they needed. Okay, now the plot thickens. There's no bread, there's no food. Lechem means food in general. There's no food in the whole land, in the whole world, because now the hunger is getting worse and worse. This is still in the second year, right? Even if Pharaoh does go and the river rises up, it's going to take time. People are going to have to plant. They're going to have to work on the land, right? It's going to take time. There's no bread. They ate everything up. Vatele Eretz Mitzrayim, the land of Egypt, became, here he says, Tala'ah, it became like weak and dried out, like it says. It's just Metala'ah. Hayorav is Zikim. It says it becomes like a very weak, what does it mean? That right. The land was weak. I guess like even like a bow and arrow. Once it throws out the arrow, so the bow is empty. It has nothing. That's what the land of Israel was. That's what I'm sorry. The land of Egypt was. Sorry. The land of Egypt. I mean, the land of Israel also was. The whole world was. It says, "Vatala Eretz Mitzrayim and Eretz Canaan," the land of Egypt and also Canaan. Israel was also empty, weak. There was nothing to eat. Joseph, meanwhile, he had all this. The silos were full of grain. So, but Joseph gathered all of the money that was found in Egypt and in the land of Canaan. He's applying also for the rest of the world, also for the food that people bought. And Joseph took all the kesef to the house of Pharaoh. Says Rashi, notnim lo et kesef. He gave Pharaoh all of the money. Why did he give all the money? He says, Shalom hora la'atzmo, that Joseph did not permit himself, despite all of his work, to take a wage. Joseph said, I'm giving everything to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, you can have everything. Meanwhile, the money ended from Egypt and from the land of Canaan and from everywhere else. And everyone came to Joseph and they said, please give us bread if we're going to die. We haven't got any money. There's nothing left. What are we gonna do? Joseph said, you know what? Give me you have flocks, you have sheep, you have this. Give me those things. You won't be able to feed them anyway. So give me all your flocks and everything. I'll take care of them. Now they belong to me and I'll give you food. So they brought all of their flocks to Joseph and he gave them food for the horses and the flocks of sheep and the flocks of cows, mikne bakar, ubachamrim, there was donkeys over there. Vayanahaleim belechem, and he conducted them with food for everything in that whole entire year. Vanahaleim, he says, binos deshe nahaleni. He also he says, nahala liiti. He gave them, fed them properly, little by little, etc. Okay, that year finished. Now we're still in the first year, right? Yaakov came up to Egypt. It was in the beginning of the second year. So that year finishes, and now everybody comes. That year, the first year finished, and now the second year starts. And everyone says, one second, give me a second, 1 minute. I'm sorry. This is going back to the first year. This is going back to the first year of famine before Yaakov came. This is going back to before where it says, Rashi says, here, about his father. Here, here, Rashi says. Here, Rashi says here, there's no food. Rashi says, I'm sorry, skip this Rashi. This is now going back. Yaakov and his sons, they came up in the second year of the famine. But there was why did they come up? Because there was no food, right? So Yaakov came up, it was already the end of the second year of the famine, the end of the second year. Okay, but now we're going to go back. There's no necessarily chronological order in the Torah. Now we're going back. It says, Chozer le'inyan rishon, l'tchilat shnei arav, in the beginning of the years of hunger, right? There were 7 years of plenty. Now the bad years are starting. The bad years are starting. Everyone's coming up and buying food from Joseph. Buying from them. After 2 years of this famine, Yaakov comes up. So the thing jumps. It's not chronologically ordered. Yaakov, this is the second year. Now we're going back to the beginning of the first year of the famine. So Joseph says to everybody, okay, you know what? Give me all your money. Okay, no more money. Give me all of your food. Give me all of your animals. Okay, the animals are all gone. Now everybody says, okay, we haven't got anything. We haven't got any money. But Titom Shanayi, now all of a sudden the second year is finished. People come and they say, we haven't got anything left. What are we going to do? There's no money. There's no animals. All we have is just our bodies and our land. That's all we've got. So Joseph says, you know what? Here, why should we die right in front of you? Also, us and our land. Take us and our land for food, and then we'll live, and that we and our land will be like servants to Pharaoh. V'ten zara, and give us seed, v'nichya v'lo namus, and that we'll live and we won't die. Ten zera, give us food. It says that we can plant in the land. Even though that Joseph said there's going to be 5 more years of famine and there won't be any more planting or harvesting. So what's going on now? So he says, because the second year is already finished. Since the Yaakov came to Egypt, so there came a blessing. And people began to plant, and the hunger stopped. The problem is that people didn't have anything. It's going to take time for everything to grow. What are they going to eat while everything is growing up? So it says, Joseph said, okay, I'll feed you all this time. And not only that, you have to sell yourselves to me and also your land. It all belongs to me. Okay, you don't want to sell yourself? Okay, you die, you'll be buried on the land. So they said, okay, Joseph, whatever you say, we're your servants, the land belongs to us. Just give us something that we can live. So it says, okay, take bread. And here I'll tell you what, take seeds and you plant the seeds. There's going to be food for everybody. Either it's supposed to be food for the next 5 years anyway, but at least you'll be able to see that the blessing has come because Yaakov is here with his sons. Now you have to be servants to Pharaoh. Therefore, he says, so we'll live, we won't die, and the land lo tesham, it won't be shmama. Okay, now what's going on over here? You have to see what's going on. The people are now all slaves to Pharaoh. Pharaoh can do whatever he wants to do with them. Pharaoh can decide, listen, you're my slaves. I want you to all die. You'll all die. I don't owe you anything to buy. Before, they bought the land, they gave him money, and they paid him back, and he sold them, but now they haven't got anything left, and they sold him everything. So he says, okay, you know what? You'll work for me now. Start working the land. Start working the land. I still have enough food for you if you want it, but start working the land. You'll see that the famine finished. The famine, here's some food for right now. Vayiken Joseph purchased all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, because each person sold his field. And now the land belongs to Pharaoh as well. And the people, cleverly, Joseph moved all the people away from their land to the edge, the borders of Egypt, from one end to the other. And Rashi explains why did he do this? So that no one will think the land belongs to them. Everyone will remember L'zikaron she'ein lehem od chelik b'aretz, that nobody owns anything anymore. Therefore, he put them in this one city, from one city to the other, so that this is to tell you the great praises of Joseph, that he intended to remove the embarrassment of his brothers. Because his brothers had left their land to come here. So the Egyptians, that they were now, pretty broken by everything that's happened. And also they were pretty amazed that these Jews saved the whole country. So you figure somebody would say, hey, you guys, you came from a strange land. You're a bunch of how do you say, immigrants. But now nobody can say that. No one can call them golim, that you're a bunch of immigrants or you're in exile, because everybody's in exile. No one is living in the original town that they had. So that's why Joseph did it, to make everybody feel that they are transient. Everyone is transient. The only thing is the land of the Kohanim, he did not, the priests, because the priests for Pharaoh, Pharaoh had to give them their portion. So they didn't. Joseph said to the priest, behold, I have bought you all today and your land, and it all belongs to Pharaoh. Take seed, plant, and work on the ground. Like we said before, take seed and plant on the ground. There are some opinions that say that this was a mistake of Joseph. That Joseph should not have done it, because by giving them the seed, it still gave them a little bit of a feeling of ownership, that they were still something. And it says that Joseph made everyone circumcise themselves, but giving them seed made them feel a little bit like they were still the bosses. So they planted. They had to give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 will belong to them for yourselves, and you can put it in your houses, the new houses that you're going to build wherever you are, and give it to your children as well. And everyone said, you have enlivened us. We're so happy that we can be the servants of Pharaoh. We'll give him the 1/5. We'll give him anything you want to. So Joseph made it a law to this very day on the land of Pharaoh that 1/5 goes to him. 1/5 goes to Pharaoh, and only the Kohanim, only the priests alone, they did not have to give this 1/5. They were independent. The Jewish people lived in Egypt, in the land of Goshen. V'yachazu, they took over it. V'yifru v'yirbu ma'od, and they were very fruitful and very successful, very, very much. Rashi says, where is this land of Goshen? It's part of Egypt. That's what it says. Where's the land of Goshen? In the land of Egypt. And they took it over, and they were very, very successful in the land of Egypt, showing us that even in exile, the Jewish people could succeed because of the fortitude of the Jews, the great blessing that God gave them. And also, this was all planned. You have to remember, this is only going to be temporary. As soon as Pharaoh, according to one opinion, dies or he changes his mind, then all of the Jewish people become slaves for the next 210 years. Have a good day with Mashiach now. We'll see you all at 8:15 tomorrow morning.